being so distributed, the blockchain, the only project we should start bottom up. But if somebody doesn't take the lead in organizing it and expose themselves to make it happen, it's difficult these things for happening.
Welcome to Truly Passive Income. I'm Neil Henderson.
And I'm Clint Harris.
Our guest today is Roberto Capodieci. He's a Chief Technology Officer and Blockchain Evangelist. We're going to talk to him about the basics of blockchain and how he sees it affecting the real estate industry. So, Roberto, first question. I would describe myself not as a blockchain skeptic. I'm a believer in the blockchain. I'm a little bit more of a cryptocurrency skeptic, but I want you to explain the blockchain to me like I'm 15. And for 5 for Clint.
Yeah, 7 or 8. Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, thank you for having me in your show. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you also for making a distinction between cryptocurrency and blockchain. Blockchain is a technology that enable cryptocurrency to exist, but can do many other things. And there is a separation between these two things. Unfortunately, by reputation, blockchain is very much associated with cryptocurrency, but that's not really always the case. Second thing, yes, explaining blockchain and the basic principle as if you were 15 is good, because I have a son that is 16 and a daughter that is 14 and one that is 3 years old, in case we go to difficult parts. Okay, so I am trained in this kind of explanation. So without going technical, but let's just bring a little example of why blockchain is powerful and is going to be empower us in a lot of very good things. Also in real estate, and particular cases in real estate that are very interesting. If you think we moved into the information era after the industrial one, right? And information has been something that moved from analog to digital. So from the vinyl disc to the CD, from VHS tapes to what we're doing now, there is video streaming, right? And the biggest limitation of digital things were the fact that you can copy and paste, and the copy is identical in terms of bits and bytes, so 1 and 0, identical to the original. You have no means to say which was the original, which is not, because they are identical. And this has a lot of advantages, obviously, for quality maintaining. If you think we're making 10 copy of a music cassette, after it goes in 10 hand, it is deteriorated so much that the music institute was not even concerned about it, right? But what we needed was the possibility to have a singularity, have a unicity of something that is digital. Okay, this would allow and empower a lot of things. And if you think about it, making an example with cryptocurrency, but I'm going to then shift this example to a better real life example. If I give you my Bitcoin, I don't have it anymore. I cannot copy and paste my Bitcoin and give it to you. And this is something that people give for granted, but this is something quite important and magic into the concept of a blockchain. So much that it is a silly monkey design people start selling for millions of dollars for whatever reason. I don't go deeper in that direction, but the beauty of it was the fact that you can own something digital, and you can show ownership, can resell it to somebody else, so you can move this object that is intangible in the physical world. And there are millions of interesting applications in this, because if you think there is a lot of digital artists that make digital art and they want to sell the original piece, right? How can you do this if you're a digital artist, right? And these sort of things empower it. Furthermore, between the ingredients that make the recipe of a blockchain, there is a cryptography. Cryptography is a science of mathematics that is used to do several things, encrypt or hide the messages, but also to do cryptographic signature, which I don't say digital signature because people think about digital signature when they sign in the small quartz display at the restaurant. That's a way to collect the hand signature in a digital manner. What I mean is a mathematical operation to do a signature very similar to what you do with a bank with a one-time PIN and OTP. No? And this is a high level of security in terms that cannot be counterfeited like a hand signature. So you have digital identity, digital signature, digital assets that can be moved between people, between a digital identity and another. So I let your brain run now in understanding why this is powerful, because being digital, I can multiply things so many times. I give you an example that is not related to real estate, but it make you understand. Race horses can be very expensive. You can spend $1 million on a racehorse, right? And because the ownership of racehorse can be shared between people, almost nowhere more than 10 people can be owner of one single racehorse, because the paperwork would be too difficult to handle and to manage, But digitally, you can have 1,000 people owning each person a small piece of horse, right? Because it's easily managed with something that is cryptographically secure. And shifting to real estate, obviously, the first use case, there has been also transforming legislation, like in Germany and other countries, legal to do so. You can assetize a piece of real estate before it's built or after it's built. So you can have a villa that is going to be rented and managed, and you can own $100 of this villa. And you're going to have a return that is the correct proportion with the amount that you own. So can you imagine now the game of real estate is for people that can move a certain amount of money because they have a good trust in the bank or because they have on their own. But the bum on the road that they just collected $10 in a day will never imagine to invest in real estate, right? While in a way that is supported by blockchain, that's possible as soon as he has a small cell phone to buy a small token that is a piece of real estate. Okay, I close here my explanation. I hope the 15 years old you understood it good enough.
Yeah, and I think the 5-year-old did too.
Super.
All right, so it sounds to me like one of the biggest challenge for blockchain coming into these industries is more regulatory than it is regulatory and legislative than it is technologically. Technologically, it sounds like almost no problem to do it.
I will say also reputational, because a lot of scam in the world of cryptocurrency, and then people don't want to associate it because they seem they're afraid. So yeah, legislatively, absolutely. And that's for most of the things. Even if I invent a car in my garage, I need to be able to drive it on the road by law. And by reputation, which is another aspect that unfortunately blockchain brings with it. No, not for everybody who understand that the technology doesn't have this reaction, but in the common knowledge is still something that is tainted a little bit by the bad things that happen in the world of NFTs and cryptocurrency.
So I don't want to oversimplify this. It sounds like there's an unlimited amount of applications, basically. But one of the things that has potential to really shake the bedrock of especially commercial real estate is fractional ownership. And it's creating a level playing field where it's not just large syndications or large operators that are going out and taking down these large projects. It gives people the opportunity to fractionalize the ownership of a property. People can invest directly into that property. Syndication has become really powerful as a group of people pooling money together to do something that's greater than what they could accomplish on their own. And this, honestly, is kind of a step backwards in that you can go straight to whoever owns that property and buy a portion of it and basically create your own investments with minimal amounts, likely, and be part owner of that.
Or even diversify, rather than owning 100% of one estate. You can have a small piece of money, so you leverage the risk. Absolutely.
So who's on the forefront of, like, are people out there doing it? You can take like an Airbnb property or a large corporate building or something like that, and you can basically put it on the blockchain. And there's an active marketplace for this now, or is this just kind of where everything's headed?
The use cases being applied, but because of legislation and things. On the other hand, there are things that are not highly regulated. So, I mean, I need to do accounting for my company. What piece of software I use to do the accounting doesn't matter. What's important is the result is there. So if you take things in this way, there are a lot of application that can be done even today and are done in many cases. The idea that the application are many, like the classic timeshare for a property that was, I don't know if in the United States took place, but in Europe it was a big thing for a long time. So everybody buy 1 week in the year of a piece of property like this can be easily managed in the same way. The basic aspect of blockchain going back to the power that he has, is that he allow people that that they're not contractually connected to each other, so they didn't sit in front of the lawyer to sign an agreement, if you want, to work together without having to elect a third party to be the guarantor of the truth. Okay, so let's say the three of us, we decide to do something where there is some need of trust that I don't have. So they call it trustless, because you don't need the trust, because it's guaranteed by mathematics. And we don't want to go to a lawyer because mathematics is good enough for us. And we don't want to elect a fourth person to hold the data for us that we all need to trust. Then blockchain is an amazing solution. That's why in the aspect of real estate, where two strangers want to participate in a similar experience, then it doesn't remove the need to trust, because there must be somebody that manages things at the end of the day, but allowed to vote. For example, if there is a renovation to do in a state that is a fraction in 100,000 people per se, they can vote based on the participation they have. One token is one vote, somebody has more, somebody has less, and they can cast a vote. And this is all things that can be done and guaranteed mathematically. So you don't need somebody to collect the vote and tell you which was the result, like they do in some election. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm gathering you're saying, the example you used about blockchain is that it's a way to ensure that that a digital asset is singular.
That's the first important thing. Yes, correct.
And not changeable without everyone knowing it's been changed. But it goes a lot deeper than that. And you're just touching on that. You can have built in a blockchain can essentially work like an automated contract. I mean, you can have all of these different layers. My understanding, that it could be you could have a fractional ownership of a timeshare, like example you use, where it also it lists your ownership, it lists your percentage of equity, it lists how you'll be paid, it lists your access if you have access, it lists the weeks that you'll be able to use it. I mean, it's rather than having a third-party timeshare manager, you could potentially have a blockchain timeshare manager that we've all agreed to, and it's all spelled out on the blockchain. Is that correct?
And talking about passive income as well, if somebody organized this thing, so invest in creating this rule set, digital, blockchain rule set that people can use, it can charge a small fee for people doing this sort of transaction. And once everything works, he doesn't have to worry. He has his income by, he's going to be interested in advertising it, so the people adopt it, do the sales aspect, but the system work on his own, and he has a passive income if you want. So there is a business side as well, because being so distributed, the blockchain, the only project should start bottom up. But if somebody doesn't take the lead in organizing it and expose themselves to make it happen, it's difficult, these things for happening. And that's one important aspect. Another thing that is important about blockchain, and for example, when I lecture blockchain at the university, which I do, is the use of this system to play chess or to play tic-tac-toe. Okay, so the important thing is there are rules that can be written inside the protocol of the blockchain or a smart contract above that guarantee that people can do only what is okay to do. Going to the basic example of Bitcoin, I cannot transfer you 10 Bitcoin if I own only 2. If I only, I can send you 1.5, 2 maximum, but no more than that. And this is a simple rule. But in where there is a flow of logic, that, for example, you can now exchange your week in the timeshare with somebody else unless it's approved by the blah, 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 or whatever it is, then you know that also in the things that you can do in base, you can guarantee somebody did something, everything was okay for these things to be done, which is a much powerful. It also remove corruption, remove favoritism, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's kind of the equivalent. In your example, you talked about basically someone putting together the equivalent of a syndication fund. Like, you're going to give me money, I'm going to raise $10 million from a group of investors, and then we're going to go out and we're going to invest in these different things. But then I'm responsible for all the communication that comes along with that, the accounting, the K1s, the accelerated depreciation, all of it. And it's basically a job until that fund eventually sunsets or those assets are liquidated. And you're talking about the opportunity to basically build out a blockchain system with the same kind of model. You're going to get people investing into that, but then that blockchain is going to manage itself, and it's all mathematically proven. And so the laborious part of being that fund manager kind of goes away. Now, you baked it in ahead of time, you preloaded the work and got it all put together, but then it's running, and because it's on blockchain, technically it could run indefinitely because you don't have to have a sunset on it. And that's the biggest thing about funds, is that eventually people will close them down because they're tired of having the job and doing the work. But you can create a financial vehicle out of this that could continue to move forward with a significantly lower barrier to entry, because people could invest with as little as $100 or $1,000, where it's really not worth it with a fund unless somebody's in for a minimum of 50 to 100,000 just to make it worth the hassle. So that it's going to take a while, I would imagine, before there's widespread adoption. But to me, it sounds like this is creating an unbelievable opportunity for the masses, for individuals to start using this platform and have access and opportunity to investments that traditionally have only been open to accredited investors. Is that true?
Absolutely. And only is accessible 24/7. So if it's Friday night, I'm at the bar and I get drunk and there is this beautiful lady, I want to gift her my house, I can actually technically can, because nobody's there stopping me unless there is a written rule. I love Google in Gmail. If you send an email at 3 a.m, you can activate a small plugin. They ask you a mathematical operation to be sure you are sober when you're doing that. You don't regret it the following morning what you've done now. Because what I'm trying to say is that with the distribution and removing the middleman, the responsibility at this point goes to the person that hold the commands, right? Because you can now call somebody to say, hey, I made a mistake yesterday. So it's important also the interface to use these sorts of things to be very well measured, because once you do it, then it's there, right? So it is important to understand. But yes, what you said is absolutely correct. Is interesting the fact that is there, and if you want a sort of a real estate solution on blockchain, we just came out of this metaverse bubble. Everybody wanted to live in the metaverse. Facebook changed name the company to Meta, right? In the metaverse, there are in some virtual world that will be part of a metaverse someday. There are lands and buildings that the people purchase exactly through the blockchain. And we're talking about millions and millions of dollars, So you buy land in a piece of metaverse using tokenization, using your blockchain account, and wouldn't be zero difference to do the same exact thing on an actual piece of land.
So it seems like, like we said before, one of the biggest challenges is regulatory and trust right now. A lot of people, most people's experience to date with the blockchain has been with cryptocurrency, and the example using is also in the metaverse. And it seems like maybe the metaverse is a bit of almost like a proving ground for some of the concepts around it. Is there anywhere today in the real world where there's a country or organizations that are utilizing blockchain in the manner that we're talking to beyond cryptocurrency? Let's forget about cryptocurrency.
In Germany, for sure. I don't have in the tip of my mind the name of the organization that do that, but the government pass it in a law that is possible to do. And there are another 4 or 5 countries that I am aware of that had by law the possibility to assetize with the blockchain. Then which one and how depends on the regulation. So this is done. And I also saw projects, for example, the $1 million villa, somebody that was selling token for a villa that would be built later with all the money collected, and each person will own a part of it to be able to use it, but also to choose how to what piece of furniture will go in some place, So it was a fully collectively decided things. So you can buy physically a piece of, so you know that the wardrobe is yours, or the toilet is yours. So you buy one particular piece and you decide on the piece what to do, how to do, and then it's a collective ownership. So it was a very creative, particular way to raise funds to build a house. But on the other hand, is also a good aspect because it's a good study, if you want, on a use of it. Another was doing project related to ecology, so making sure that the consumption of electricity, to monitor places around real estate. So there is all the mechanics of the electricity consumption, so the utilities and so on, which are also monitored together with other aspects. So that there are many, different initiatives that are like this.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we're going down the rabbit hole, and I always take it. I'm an investor, right? So I always take it back to real estate and kind of take it there. But even within that realm, my brain is spinning right now of all the different applications, and I think that it likely has opportunity to change valuations on properties, because if you're talking about people pooling together money to buy a property and they're not using debt with interest rates, and you're not paying $10,000 in closing costs to close on a house, because the deed registry and all the prep and everything like that is basically automated. The ownership can be automated through the blockchain. And I think it has opportunity to change that valuation. If you're pooling together money from 100 people to buy a certain real estate project or a hotel, and it's cash, those people are probably going to be willing to purchase at a lower cap rate if it's a project that they're passionate about. And so I could see it get to the point where I'm listing a house. It can go on the average market, or it could be listed on blockchain and be sold basically as a syndicated deal or something like that. And people are going to get to the point of they're choosing one way or the other. And like, I'm going to sell it whichever way is going to give me the highest net. And it might be that this is kind of the way of the future and do things a little bit differently. So with your background in technology, where's the opportunity, right? You're in this world, like you're calling us from Bali right now, but you're working around the world with this technology that's blossoming in different countries. For the average person, like, what should we be looking for? What should we be reading? What resources are out there? And where's the opportunity over the next 5 to 10 years?
All right, let me give you an analogy as fast as I can. When was the moment of the digital camera? When the first digital camera came out, I am from Venice in Italy, okay, which is a touristic destination. There were dozens of shops that were developing pictures. They have this huge Kodak machine where you put the film inside and shatan automatically come out, okay? Only one photographer understood what the change of a digital photography would bring. He called me and we bought computer. He made the place to sit and do photo editing. He specialized in all these things. Sure enough, it was very ahead of time. But a few years later, all the shop with the Kodak machine, with the Homer Simpson that was there pressing the button because you didn't need more than that, closed down. Same like Blockbuster with the streaming video, right? So now that the bubble of all the cryptocurrency is fading out and people is looking at the real technology, is a moment for people that is in the industry deeply enough, like can be you or other people like you, to take the lead and build the systems the other is going to adopt later, so that's a golden moment to surf the wave that is going to arrive, because later then you follow, you don't lead anymore, you're going to be using some people like me. It's beautiful to be in the software development in this, because I had experience with cutting marble, with plastic surgery, with everything, and bring the knowledge, but I don't have the knowledge of the real estate world to understand what is a better choice in a way or another, right? So it's only people like you, empowered by somebody like me, that can create something that tomorrow people are going to use, in the regulator aspect as well, but in the technical and practical aspect as well. So you lead the way.
Yeah. So, I mean, you and I are probably about the same age, mid-50s. We both grew up. I remember the first time someone told me an email address, and I was like, what do you mean, at something what the hell are you talking about? And I remember the first time someone read out a website address to me, www.blablabla.com / what the hell? So, I get the analogy you're talking about, which is that with digital photography, and where do you, and it took a long time. I mean, the web really started taking off probably 1992, 93, but, it really, I don't think really took off until
2000s.
2000s, post.com bust.
Exactly correct.
It busted,
That's
busted.
exactly what
Everyone's
you need. You need the hyper excitement, people that just add .com because it makes money. There was a tea company, they make tea to drink, they added blockchain in the company name without 400% in the stock market in Hong Kong. So yeah, once this bubble explode, and we are in this moment because we just bring, now everybody's artificial intelligence, right? Who remember blockchain anymore? I'm forgotten, I lost my job. No, I'm just kidding, but meaning that people moved on in another bubble, in another trend. So this is the gold moment to actually build the real things with the decentralization. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, I guess my question off of that is, where do you think we are timeline wise? The internet, like we said, sort of took off in 93, busted in 2000, really started taking off in, let's say, 2005, 2006, maybe with social media. And here we are almost 20 years later, and we can't live without it. People don't even think about it. We're carrying a lot of little computers in our pocket that are, our wallets, our identification, our communication, everything. Where do you think we are in the timeline of blockchain and that technology taking off?
Blockchain is already almost 15 years old, and so we've already been through quite a lot. And I think that also time goes a different speed now. So we are much more into these, technology things. I could keep up with everything in the past. I cannot keep up with anything now because, I turn around, something else happened. So I say that is something that is going to stay long term. Is something that is going to flourish in the next 5 years, maybe, to the point that people understand why. Because technologically wise, there is some more advancement that need to be done, in my opinion, but we are already there. Why people should use, the first email, you mentioned the email. The beautiful thing is that if you think about the email in the past, the people says it's never going to work. The fax machine is so simple. You put a piece of paper, it comes out on the other side, it's done. And for young people that listen to us, it was a strange machine that can send the messages in paper. And people that send an email would need to turn on the computer, start the computer, the modem start making strange sounds, connect, send the email, write it, then hang up, then pick up the phone, call the other person, say, look, I sent you an email, go check, right? And this was insane. So how can you see something like this possibly becoming functional and of everyday use? Now we see, now email is actually so abused that there is no more useful, because I receive 500 email per day. How can I know what's important or not? So obviously we have in front of us a prosperous future for this sort of technology like blockchain, that decentralized, that brings in our hand the control of what we do in so many different fields. And it's going to happen, we like it or not, because we are moving in that direction. And then is a choice who's going to lead the market. So in my opinion, 5 years from now, people will have a much more consciousness in what happened, even though the final user should not even care what happened behind the scene. Okay, you don't need to know an engine to drive a car. So people will use it. People will be able to buy, like, my grandma gave me for Christmas $100. $10 I buy a piece of a horse. $20 I buy a piece of property. $10 I am a partner of in a club downtown. Whatever it is, and then they're gonna see their own investment in this such a small term, because it's gonna be possible and regulated as well.
Along with that, security is going to become even more important, because there's going to be a lot of opportunity for fraud. But in terms of the timeline of things, the radio used to be so important to the families in America, and in the 30s, 40s, 50s, like people would gather around in the evenings and the families would listen to the radio. And then the television replaced the radio. And I would argue now that the cell phone is replacing the television, if it hasn't already right now. And it's the same kind of thing. You talk about, email replaced the fax machine. Well, fax machine replaced writing letters. And now it's gotten to the point, just like you said, I walk in and the first thing I do on Monday mornings is unsubscribe from about 20 emails because it's too much. It's just noise.
Yes.
And it's to the point now that now we're using so many different platforms here. There's Google Chat. There's just sending people text. There's like nobody wants to be on the phone anymore. You can feel that technology getting replaced. And it feels like with the conversation we're having is that there are things right now that are going to get replaced that we haven't even realized yet because the application is there. This feels like one of those conversations that if you go back and listen to it 5 years from now, it's probably going to be comical because we're just barely, it's me especially, I'm barely wrapping my head around this and we're going to look back. And I remember being like, what's the point? I was a lot, let's see, I got my first cell phone when I was 15, the Nokia brick phone. And then, for me, it was in college when I remember a friend telling me like, hey, check out this Facebook thing. You have to have an email address that ends in .edu in order to sign up. And like I went to a private school. We like rallied a group of people to reach out to Facebook to get our school added to the list. And I watched the computer lounge. Most people didn't have computers. I watched the computer lounge in college explode over a period of a month or two because everybody's connecting and things like that. And it's funny to see how much got replaced. And when it's happening in the moment, you don't realize that how much of your interaction is about to be on a social media platform. And that opens up the opportunity for connections, for marketplace. I mean, 10 years ago, it's ludicrous to think that we would be connecting with you, Roberto, while you're in Bali for us to have a conversation about this. And now it's commonplace. And COVID pushed a lot of people to start doing that a lot faster. Right. So I think to me, it feels like one of those things that it's going to take some early adapters of new technology to push it forward. There's going to be a moment when it hits mainstream, and it's not going to be the cryptocurrency bubble, and it's not going to be NFTs and Jake Paul pushing, monkey pictures. It's going to be an adaptive use of somebody that's making a meaningful change in the world and the value that they can offer people in terms of fractionalized ownership. There's going to be a moment, absolutely. And it's going to take off from there.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, it depends who's going to be there.
Yeah. Roberto, I want to start wrapping it up, but I want to ask you one last question. What is the coolest application of the blockchain that you have seen to date?
Right, that's a good question. So I will go to a sector that is not really business oriented, but is the gaming industry. If you think in a game you can have 4,000 battles and finally you have your gold sword. This gold sword has been living inside the game always. Now, because of decentralization and assetization, this golden sword can belong to you independently where you are. So if you go to another game that is comparable, there you go, you are your golden sword that you got from the other game, and you can use it in this other game. And this changed the paradigm. They call it Web 3 because Web 2 was passive. Doesn't matter who I am. Like I surf from one place to the other. If I have an account in a place, it's limited to the place. Now with the digital identity, me is going to be me everywhere I go. And I've been recognized so much that you can combine things that are very interesting. For example, if you own a piece of this real estate, you can access the country club there, because they can verify the ownership in the blockchain itself. So, it opens a lot of other interesting things. So the best application, in my opinion, as of today, is to bring the items the kids have in video games, including the avatar, outside the game with them to be brought into another game or around and to be sold as well. I've spent 3 months fighting to get a gold sword. There is the rich kid that wants to shortcut and have the gold sword. Give me $50. I give you the gold sword. And, that's another way to see it. So,
Roberto Capodieci, this has been a mind-expanding conversation, and I've really enjoyed it. It was a bit surprising. If any of our listeners want to find out more about the blockchain and more about you specifically, what would be the best place for them to find you?
Sure. So my LinkedIn profile is the classic linkedin.com/in/rc10. R like Roberto, C like Capo. 10 is number 10 in Italian. In Italian, 10 is said 10. So my family name is boss of 10. Capodieci. Capo is the boss, 10 is 10. So RC10 in LinkedIn. Or a short link for my website is rcx.it. RCX because X in numeral is number 10 again. So RC Roberto Capo 10. .it, which is because I'm Italian or because it's the business I work in, information technology. So that is rcx.it, RC10 in LinkedIn, and they can reach me. I have written and published a few books. One latest is on blockchain and is for free to download. So if somebody wants the link, they can ask me, and I'm happy to share the book. Or they want to buy in Amazon, they can buy it on Amazon. It's okay.
Okay. We'll put all that in the show notes. But I've really enjoyed this conversation, Roberto.
Yeah,
thanks
thank you
for
so much.
sharing your time.
Appreciate your time. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening and watching the Truly Passive Income podcast. If you liked the show, if you think it would be useful for someone else, the greatest compliment that you could give us would be to share the episode, leave a comment down below, or leave us an honest review. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to let us know down below. And remember, with truly passive income comes freedom of time, place, and the freedom to pursue your higher purpose.